My name is Ken Luke. I'm on the trips committee, and I went on this trip. So I'm acting as co-host today. The presentation is actually going to be done by Mark Hamill. This trip was organized over the course of about 2 years, and our main coordinator was Cherry Postic, who worked with Great Western Travel to put it together. Last October, just about a year ago, we had 33 participants fly to China and go on the trip. Most of them were OLLI members, but we did have some friends and family members. I think there were at least 3 who were not members of OLLI, but they were friends, and so they went along with us. We flew into Beijing to start the trip. 2 weeks later, we left from Shanghai. In the meantime, we traveled extensively through North and Central China. China is a very big country. We traveled thousands of miles, I would say probably between 2,000 and 3,000 miles. And we did it by internal airlines and high-speed trains, buses, and even a river cruise. And you should see all of that during the presentation.
The OLLI-China culture trip was between October, my name is Mark Hamill, by the OLLI-China cultural trip occurred between October the 10th and 23rd of 2019. And like Ken said, there was 30-some members on this trip, and some were OLLI members, probably 28 of the 33 members or something like that were OLLI members, and there were some guests, friends of some of the members that were also on the trip. Move on to this slide. First off, I think it's really important that we thank the members on the trip, both OLLI and non-OLLI members who contributed to this presentation. People on the trip supplied some charts for the trip. Also, they supplied pictures. In fact, unbelievable numbers of pictures. In fact, my wife took 1,800 pictures. And so I had a lot of pictures to choose from to do this. I'd also like to thank Cherry Postic for being the coordinator for the trip. And Susan McNamara performed a lot of the initial editing of this presentation. I ended up taking over the final editing and the rest stuff because of some issues with cloud sharing the file and the size of the file. But Susan played a significant role. Also, this presentation is available if you go to the, and I'll show you at the end of the presentation, it's available as an MP4, and also all the videos are available today on the OLLI website. If you go to the OLLI website and go under classes, you'll see trips, and at the bottom of the trips page, you'll see all the video. You'll see the if you click it, you'll enter a page and show all the information on the China trip. It'll also be recorded and posted based upon the conversation today. So I also think we should thank the team for posting all the information we have for the trip. So let's begin. We arrived in Beijing on October the 11th, 2019. And if you see on the slide here, Beijing sits up in the northern, just almost straight to the west of North Korea. And during this trip, we actually go from Beijing to Chiang, to Chengdu, to Chongqing. We visit Hangzhou, Suzhou, and we end up in Shanghai, where we depart from. So the distance between Beijing and Hangzhou is about, I think, 1,100 miles. Okay, Hangzhou. So it's actually, like Ken said, we covered a long distance on this trip, probably closer to 5,000 miles. In the first picture, we see Mr. Monroe getting on the bus on our arrival. We also see, this is a picture of the outside of the hotel, the gardens outside of the hotel we were staying. It's kind of cool. The first night we were staying in the hotel in Beijing, when one of the OLLI members requested a bottle of water and at the hotel, and a robot knocked on the door and delivered us water. So the automation that's there is pretty impressive. On the 12th, so it's the first day basically on the tour, we went for a tour of the hutongs in Beijing. Now, hutongs are kind of interesting because this was the traditional way that people lived in the past. And there's actually really only one large hutong left because most of them have all been redeveloped. And these hutongs are actually low-level housing developments. And you'll see in the picture here the guy standing outside. And you see, and actually what they did is they built groups of 4 houses with a courtyard in the center. And in this courtyard, the people would meet in the evenings and they'd talk and the rest of stuff. And so there were 4 little groups of 4 houses, and they had a courtyard around them, and families used to get together and the rest of stuff. And these hutongs have a lane or alley between them, so people move down these alleyways, and the alleyways could be anywhere from, and we saw some real narrow alleyways, and some of them were like 16 inches wide, and the normal street was probably about 30 feet wide. This is one of the widest streets, and you see cars parked along the thing. At intersections, you would see little shops, you'd see farm stands and the rest of stuff. And throughout the hutong, the alleys crisscrossed each other, and we spent probably an hour and a half wandering through the hutong and visiting a few houses, etc. We arrived at the hutong taking these trishots. You see the little red trishots sitting up in the picture here. Well, people are sitting in these trishots, and they drove along, and we circled around by the side of this lake, and beside the hutong development complex was this lake. It was a man-made lake, really, really pretty. Not very deep, but very pretty. After visiting the hutongs, we went to Tiananmen Square, and Tiananmen Square sits basically on the front end of the Forbidden City. And Tiananmen Square is large, okay? It's about 4,400 square meters, about 109 acres in size, okay? And it's actually the 4th largest square in China, the 7th largest square in the world. During celebrations, it holds 1 million people, so it's massive. And you'll see in the picture up in the corner, you'll see that we just arrived after National Day, which is the 1st of October. And there were all these little floats or things standing around in the thing, and the flowers looked beautiful. It was pretty nice to see. At the entrance by Tiananmen Square, you also see the picture of Mao, and you see the wall, and behind this wall, you'll see the Forbidden City. Here's a group picture in the front of Tiananmen Square. And in the bottom corner here, our tour leader from Great Western was Richard Liu, and he escorted us throughout the whole tour. And these are the various members from OLLI members and non-OLLI members on the tour. The picture on the right, you see a stairwell, and this is hand carved. It's all rock, okay? And this is one of the stairwells in the Forbidden City. The Forbidden City is a massive complex. What's amazing about the thing is it took 14 years to build, 1406 to 1420. In fact, last Friday was the 600th anniversary of the completion of the square. So it was a massive celebration in China over that. About 1 million workers, including 100,000 craftsmen, were used to build the square. It was the imperial palace for China for 492 years. It was a home of 24 emperors. It's large inside. It's about 15 hectares in size. It's about the sides of the square of the complex are about almost a third of a mile. Actually, no, it covers about a third of a square mile in area. I think the sides are about 1,000 feet long by 750 feet wide. So it's a pretty massive complex. It has 980 buildings, of which over 70 palace compounds and 8,700 rooms. So this is not a small building. It's a small little city. It's a city on its own, surrounded by a 10-meter wall, and the wall is about 2 miles in length as it surrounds the city. Behind the wall is a moat, and the moat is about 52 meters wide. And when they constructed this moat, they excavated the moat, and they actually built a hill. It's a man-made hill on the outside of the Forbidden City, and they planted a temple on top of the hill. It hosts about 14 million visitors a year, about 80,000 people per day. It was a cloudy day, and it was October, so it's a fairly large crowd, as you can see in the picture, but it really wasn't that busy that day. Another picture of some more of the buildings inside of the city, and in the right picture we see a couple OLLI members, and we see our tour guide for Beijing, Shelley. Okay, Forbidden City. A couple more pictures. This picture here, I think you may have seen the picture on the left-hand side in the movie Little Emperor. It's actually, I think, the palace throne room. And there's a couple additional pictures of buildings inside the square. Now, something that's really interesting about this picture is, I'm going to talk about a little bit, is something about the Forbidden City. One of the things we have an issue with in California is earthquakes. It's a serious problem. But, it's interesting, in the 600 years that the Forbidden City has been there, no buildings have collapsed from an earthquake. So we get 600 years, it survives 200 major earthquakes. And some of the earthquakes were pretty severe. The Shangshan earthquake in 1976 was 7.8 on the Richter scale. Now, the largest earthquake ever encountered on Earth occurred in May 1960, and it was in the Greater Chilean earthquake, and it was a 9.5 earthquake. So I guess the question that rises is, why has this city survived 600 years? I mean, sure, some of the cities have been destroyed by fires and the rest of stuff and being rebuilt, but really the earthquake has never destroyed any of the buildings here. And I think if you ever have a chance, you should watch. There's a Nova show on China, and you'll find it very interesting where they talk about the Forbidden City and they talk about the Grand Canal. But it's an excellent show to watch. It's about an hour and a half in length. But what's the secret of the Forbidden City surviving 600 years? Well, to find that answer, some specialist carpenters built a 1:5 scale model of one of the structures in the Forbidden City and used the shake table in order to simulate earthquake forces. And it was kind of interesting because they applied earthquake forces on this building, and the buildings remained standing even in a 9.0. So they went all the way to a 10.1 and forced a 10.1 earthquake on this building, and they shook it, and it still remained standing. A 10.1 earthquake would be equivalent to hitting the energy from about 2 billion tons of TNT. Building never fell. So why do these buildings stand? And a lot of buildings you see in China are built with the same architecture as used here. Well, when they built this scale structure, they built it using the same techniques the Chinese used to build this building. And so what they did was why did this building remain standing? Well, there's really three reasons why they remain standing. The first reason was the corners of each of these buildings has brackets. They're called gudongs. And what happens is a cross section that joins the beams that go under the roof. And it's kind of like what you see on log cabins where they carve out the ends of the logs in order to fit them together, and then they join the logs together and build the cabin. It's roughly the same thing where they join the beams together with this sort of like a support, and that prevents that holds the building together. The second key of why these buildings stand is there is not a single nail nor glue used in the joints. It's all held together on their own. And the third key is the large columns that support the beams are all freestanding. So if you actually look at this picture on the left in this slide, you'll see that this beam or this pillar coming down from the floor is sitting on a cement plate, okay? Or not a stone plate. And this beam just sits, this pillar just sits on that thing. So when it shakes, okay, the pillar moves, the whole structure moves, and it doesn't collapse. So this little structure was put through a 10.1 magnitude quake, and it never fell. And that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of the old buildings still standing in China. Well, that was just an aside. So let's go on to the next slide. Here's a picture of the moat. Pretty. You know, you come out of the gate of the castle and you see the towers on the edge of the wall. You can see the beautiful reflection. You look down the moat, and it's about, well, it's probably three-quarters of a mile down the half a mile down that moat, looking straight on in the rightmost picture. After visiting the Forbidden City, we visited the Summer Palace in Beijing. And the Summer Palace was basically where the imperial family went to stay during the summer. And it was famous because it was kind of airy, and you had pavilions and beautiful gardens. And one of the empresses actually made her permanent residence there. And I mean, the life there was full of extravagance and excess. It was really quite amazing how these people lived. And here's some of the buildings inside the Summer Palace. And of course, all the palaces have their lakes and the rest of stuff. And here you can rent little boats to go out on the thing, and you can see some of the buildings. It's really pretty inside the palace area. It was kind of neat. We were walking out on one of the sidewalks, and we saw a man with his stick here drawing on the rocks and on the sidewalk. And he drew all these pictures, the cat and the pig and the rest of stuff. And Linda, he saw Linda here in the picture, and he decided to draw a picture of Linda and put her on the sidewalk. And all this is a piece of foam with water in it. And he draws it with water, and eventually it just dries and disappears. The 13th, so we go back to the hotel. The next morning we go and visit the Great Wall. And the Great Wall of China is an amazing place. It's the longest wall in the world. It's a structure built for defensive reasons. It's been around for 2,300 years. You can see it from space. It's probably one of the few walls that you can see from space. It's 13,170 miles. It covers some rugged territory, steep mountains, unbelievable scenery. And actually, they talk about the Great Wall, but there's also the Southern Wall as well. And we never went to see the Southern Wall, but a few years ago, in 2017, my wife and my daughter went, and they actually visited the Great Wall. And they visit the Great Wall towards, from Beijing, looking out on where it meets the ocean. And they also visit the Southern Wall. And from the pictures they showed me of the Southern Wall, it was no less impressive than the Great Wall. So we have 13,000 miles of Great Wall, but we also have other walls in China that are also long. There's another picture of the people, the tour members at the Great Wall. And you can see in the middle picture, Richard was, John from Longevity Stick was, led us in some exercise before we got ready to climb up on the wall. And you can see in the picture on the right that that wall is no small thing. I mean, it's tall, and you can actually see as the wall extends off in the distance, you can see actually part of the initial picture that on the very first slide that I showed you. Thing to remember, he who has not been on the Great Wall is not a true man. Probably Confucius said that. Some additional pictures of the Great Wall. Some of the OLLI members. I think this may be Ken in the green jacket here. And again, some of the OLLI members hiked up to the tower. I don't know. My wife went up to the tower, and I think Mickey Lacoste and a few others went up to the tower. But I was lazy, and I stayed down with a few of the husbands and let the women do the walking. Okay, after visiting the Great Wall, we toured the Olympic complex. I didn't include any pictures of the Olympic complex, but this picture on the right, on the left, sorry, is the picture outside the hotel. Beautiful lamps, street lamps on the side of the road. And the picture on the right, we see OLLI members getting on board the Eastern China air flight to Xi'an. Okay, so we leave Beijing, we catch a plane, we fly to Xi'an. And what's Xi'an famous for? Well, about 40 kilometers outside of Xi'an is the Terracotta Warrior complex. And by the complex is a museum. And at that museum, you can see some of the OLLI members standing as, there's John and Elizabeth and standing outside. There's my wife standing over here, and they're all standing as warriors. And it's, you could buy little warriors and do whatever you wanted to do there at the museum. Later on, we went to see the Terracotta Army. And the Terracotta Army is amazing, okay? And let me give you a little bit of background on this visit. Okay, we have a mausoleum sitting in the center somewhere here. And off to the north, the south, east, and west are little mounds. And under these mounds were buried the Terracotta warriors. Now, so far, only the site was discovered in 1974, and only the easternmost mound has ever been excavated. It was discovered by some farmers, and what they were doing was they were drilling a water well. And when they drilled their water well, they uncovered something underneath, and it turned out to be some of the tombs or the burial sites for this army. What's been uncovered before is basically 7,000 warriors, 600 horses, 100 chariots. And the site was named a World Heritage Site after its discovery. So the thing to remember here, we're only looking at 1/4 of the actual site, and that's the only part that's being excavated so far, and it's not completely excavated. So there's 3 more mounds to go through. And this is the burial complex, and it's about, it was discovered, it's about, what, it says 50, it's about 45 kilometers actually east of Xi'an, and Xi'an, and it's being excavated. It's really interesting to look at. You see all these guys standing there, and you see some horses. You see some of the guys with their heads knocked off. The part that's really interesting here is no two figures have the same face, okay? And not only do they not have the same face, they're all different sizes in a way. The officers all tend to be larger. The larger the figure is, the more rank they have. And in this complex here, in this pit that's being excavated, you'll find soldiers, infantry. You'll even find some areas where they have the concubines for the emperor that were made. And you also see chariots, horses, etc. Basically, at the complex, there's there's a mausoleum in the center. About 1.5 kilometers to the east of the thing is where they've excavated 3 pits. The first pit on the left has mostly infantry, some nobles, some concubines, etc. The middle pit that you see here was more skilled people. There were more chariots. There were more officers. There were more archers. There were more. This was basically you basically have your foot soldiers in pit 1, your more skilled soldiers in the middle pit, and in the rightmost pit, which is pit number 3, you actually have the headquarters. These guys here are all personnel from the headquarters of the army. So they're leading the troops, and they have their own pit. So that's what's in pit number 3. Let's go on. A couple of the discoveries that were made in here were these 2 chariots. And these chariots are famous. They're made from bronze and wood. And these chariots basically are war chariots. They have 4 horses in front, a driver, and these chariots, I think the one on the left is more of a fighting chariot where you'd be hauling soldiers and maybe archers on a thing. The other chariot is kind of interesting because you see a hole in the side, and so something was covered up and hidden on the inside. So you had maybe they had something on the inside, and I'm not sure what it was. But what's interesting is these chariots were made of bronze and wood, and actually the scale to which they were making, some of them were made with 3,000 pieces of wood and bronze. Pretty impressive structures to build and bury.
I found this on the web.
Besides infantry, the army had 600 horses, 100 chariots. They carry officers and riders in 2, 3, and 4 teams. The soldiers were regular rows. We have cavalry. We have bowmen. And one of the best one of the best things that were actually uncovered was an archer, and he's standing there with his bow, and he's ready for battle, and it's pretty cool. Now you look at this and you say, oh, hey, listen, they built these things. Well, how big are these figures? Well, these figures weighed 200 kilos each. Can you imagine how many tons of clay was used to make? 200 kilos is about 2.2, so about 450 pounds. 450 pounds to make one of these figures. Can you imagine? We get 600 horses, 7,000 soldiers, 450 kilos just to make a soldier. Can you imagine how much wood was needed to fuel the pottery kilns to make these figures? Pretty cool. Okay, 15th comes. We're inside the city of Xi'an, and we're at the Wild Goose Pagoda. And the big Wild Goose Pagoda is one of the most famous Buddhist pagodas in China. It was built 589 AD. It's a 5-story temple. Was sponsored as Li Ji, the Crown Prince, sponsored a renovation project on the temple in memory of his mother's kindness after she suffered an early death. Pretty cool. But you'll notice a lot of people milling around the outside of this thing. You see the little bit of rain falling here. It's kind of neat, is outside the pagoda, people were dancing. And here we see a picture of Elizabeth dancing with one of the locals. We see over here Mickey LaCasa flying a kite, a ribbon kite. Pretty neat. In fact, I'll show you a couple of videos of dancing at the Wild Goose Pagoda. And right now, so I'm gonna do a new share here. I'm going to show you two videos. One, they're about 30 seconds in length. Actually, it'll be about 40, 50 seconds in length. You'll see three videos here. So we have people dancing. So we have these, we have people dancing. In fact, in China, the older people get together in the mornings and in the evenings. They dance on the street corners. They dance in the parks. They dance at places like the pagoda. And they get together and they just, it's basically square dancing, Chinese square dancing that they do. And they love to even have the foreigners join in and dance with them. You have people flying these ribbon kites, and it's pretty cool to watch these long kites being moved. And it's not an easy thing. It's actually excellent exercise. This is outside of the Wild Goose Pagoda, and you'll see on the left-hand side, you'll see someone holding a stool, it looks like, in the air. We got a child carrying a bucket. We have the temple up close on the in the center picture, and we have an urn. And I think there's probably some joss sticks in this urn that they're burning. Okay, now we get into the city itself. And we're actually going, Xi'an is originally a walled city. Even today is considered the landmark dividing the city from the inner and outer parts of the city. The city wall is massive, okay? It's tall and thick. There's two entrances, the north and south gate. And in fact, this is, if you see the picture in the lower picture on the left-hand side, this is just inside one of the gates. And the buses come into this thing and they park and they let the people off. And then people can walk up onto the wall. And on a nice day, you can cycle the wall. You can rent bicycles and go for a cycle around. It's about 8 kilometers around the city, and you can actually cycle all the way around the city. It's and you can also on the wall, and you can actually walk the wall. In fact, my wife and daughter walked the wall in 2017, and it's a long walk, 8 miles, but it's very pretty because you got on once you got it basically is protecting the whole inner part of the city, that big wall. You can see the wall is not. I said it was thick. You can see how large it is. It's it's probably 40, 50, maybe 60 feet wide, and along the wall you see the guard posts. And so we got a guards post here. A little further down is the next guard post, and inside is usually smaller buildings on the inside, and this is the inside of the wall. This is the outside of the wall. So we have developed on both sides of the wall here. Very, very pretty. After leaving this, at the end of the day, we grabbed the train, a high-speed train to go from Xi'an to Chengdu. So now we're moving down here to Chengdu. Chengdu. I have to apologize because my pronunciation at times isn't good, so my wife's correcting me whenever I screw up severely. So bear with me.
I do want to point out myself that you might be wondering, why was the first emperor of China, Shi Huangdi, why was he buried in Xi'an and not in Beijing? And that's because Xi'an was the ancient capital of China. It was much further to the west than it is now. And it was only later that the capital was moved to Beijing. That's it. That's it. Well, I guess I could point out that Chongqing was also where we're going now. You're going to be showing that was also a capital of China during World War II. Beijing and Nanjing, which were both capitals to the east, were occupied by the Japanese. So the Chinese government moved the capital, again moved it west, this time to Chongqing.
Okay.
I guess we're going to go to Chengdu first and then Chongqing.
Yeah, so we're going to go to Chengdu. So we catch a high-speed train to Chengdu.
Train ride is interesting.
Train ride was pretty interesting. In fact, there's one of the tickets from the ride, and it was raining that day, so it was pretty cool. Food, they have dining cars. You see the train itself inside the cars. It's pretty clean. I think that's Kenji sitting in the left picture. We also see the menu, and you see the panda bear because we're going to Chengdu. And when we arrive at the city, and we're going to dinner in the evening, and on the way to dinner we pass some fruit stands, and you can see beautiful produce. We eat grapes, bananas, oranges, and this is, I think, the restaurant where we ate at that night. In the morning of the 16th, we wake up and we go to the Panda Breeding Research Center. The research center was founded in 1987, starting with 6 pandas rescued from the wild. Although pandas are technically carnivores, their diet consists mostly of bamboo. They will consume grasses and other shrubs, fruits. They love apples, and even small birds and rodents. Pandas get very little nutrition from bamboo, and hence they eat a lot of it. When they're not eating, they're napping, often in the trees. They estimate the number of captive pandas in the world is about 500. Zoos in 27 countries enjoy pandas on loan from China. There are estimated 1,800 pandas in the wild, and they've been downgraded from endangered to vulnerable. The goal of research center is to release captive pandas in the wild. Today, 10 pandas have been released, and 7 are still surviving. And I'm going to show you a few videos on pandas. So it's you're going to see 3 videos on pandas. One is eating bamboo, another couple playing, and a couple red pandas.
See how white that is by its mouth?
咱们还看别的吗？
Yeah.
那已经更熟人了。
开始地面炸鸡。
I think I got a couple digits.
No, not behind the tree. Thank you.
Hey, you tell them. We need a director. Okay, so we're back to the, I hope everyone enjoyed the videos. And in the pictures here, we see the enclosures and we see a panda inside of on the right-hand side, we see a panda, giant panda inside of an enclosure. We see, what's the bird? Walking across the pathway and we have to stop to wait for the bird to go by, a peacock. And it's really neat when you walk down the little sidewalks inside the research center and you see the bamboo growing across and creating shade. It's really, really pretty to walk there. Red pandas are distantly related to the giant pandas. They're called red pandas or lesser pandas. They have also been classified in their own unique family. They eat bamboo, grasses, roots, small birds. They rest and shelter in the trees. They're a little smaller, and they're actually very pretty to look at with their red color, as opposed to the white and black of the normal panda, or the giant panda. And these are some pictures here of the baby pandas. The little panda that you see there is 52 days old, and he's inside the research center, and there's his little play area. That's the panda on the right, and you can see him 52 days after birth. That's the little panda 52 days after birth in the left picture. I guess this guy on the right is perhaps a little bit older than that. And I think there's another panda hiding in behind here that he doesn't want anyone to see him. We're at the center. There's a picture on the left is the tour group again, and a lot of you guys can recognize yourselves in the picture. And you see the kids, and the kids really like seeing us in the park. And there are the kids in the orange hats and the white hats and the blue hats, and there was a white hat group and the rest of stuff. And they were really fun because they tried to talk to you. And they didn't know that much English, but they tried to communicate with you, and they were having a lot of fun. So they try and talk to you, and you say a few words to them, and they wanted to hang out with you all day long, continually smiling and nice waves, trying to say hello to you. It was beautiful. After we left the park, we went to Jingli Old Street. It's one of the oldest shopping streets in Sichuan province, and it traces itself back to the Three Kingdoms period about 1800 years ago. And you can see in the picture here on the left, you can see the way the shops are, and they open up with sliding windows and sliding doors to kind of thing. Beautiful, beautiful little alleyway. And in fact, there's the gate to enter, and they lock the gate up at night. You can see people walking down the alleyway, and you can see some of the OLLI members in the picture. I think that's Richard here. There's a few others in the picture. There's John over here. Some of us, I think most of the ladies tried to do a little shopping, and some of the guys went and hung out in the local Starbucks. We needed a coffee and a break. After leaving the street, we traveled for 2 hours by high-speed train from Chengdu to Chongqing. And so Chongqing is basically where we're going to head off on our cruise. You can see some of the pictures here. There's Mr. and Mistress and Mr. Monroe. You see Helga and Elizabeth. I'm back here, my wife, Jane. There's Ken, Marjorie, Tom, Mickey. We're all sitting together on the train. It was a wonderful train ride. It was a little overcast, so the pictures along the route weren't that beautiful, but it was pretty to see. And when we reached the city, it was evening time, and we went to this shopping complex and dining center for dinner. And I mean, the shopping center in the evening, you can just see how beautiful it was with the golden lights and the red colors and the red pillars that you see here. Just absolutely fantastic to look at. And there were little gardens in front of the complex, and you'd see the musicians, the statues of musicians playing. Pretty neat to look at. As we walked through the complex, and after dinner, we saw some of the little shops. You can see oh, sorry, I advanced one here. You see some of the spices. You just buy spices off the thing. Richard and myself waiting, bridge, again, the beautiful architecture and the rest of stuff. And after dinner, we headed down towards the Yangtze River for the cruise. The boat we took for the cruise was the President No. 7. And we board the ship at Chongqing, and we go down to Yisheng. And we pass through the Three Gorges. So we're going downstream. Along the way, we visit a bunch of cities, and we had stops along the route. The Chengdu Ghost City, the Pagoda, I'll butcher this one if I have to say it, White Emperor City, the Gorges, and finally the stream, and we arrive at our destination. And this cruise takes about, what, 2.5 days, maybe 3 days to complete? Okay, first stop on the thing was Ghost City, and that was now October the 18th. And this is the entrance to the city, and entrance to the city. The city sits up on a hill, so you have a choice you have to make. You can take a cable car up the hill, or you can walk up the hill to the Ghost City. This actually is maybe this picture is a little bit about a place. It should be. Let me just go to the picture following here. To get up to the city, you can go one of two ways. You can take the gondola, or you can walk up. Okay. Now you're at the top of the city, and at the top of the city, couples have to walk across the bridge slowly to keep from frightening. People are asked to walk across this bridge, and when you walk across the bridge, you have to walk to keep the evil spirits away and to have a long life together. So you can't walk across the bridge quickly. If you walk across too quickly, you're going to wake up the evil spirits. And so you're greeted in the ends by the people after you've made the crossing. And pretty neat, the crossing. And there's 4 pictures of 4 different couples making the crossing across the bridge.
Mark, I want to point out something on that picture. the people, the escorts there, don't look Chinese. Actually, they are Chinese, but they're from a Chinese minority, I think from the Southwest, because there are several minority sections of China where the people are not ethnically Han Chinese.
Okay. So what's kind of neat here now is we're in the ghost city. We're walking around. And you see all these evil characters there, and there's a kind of a water wheel that they're turning to pump water. We have our torture chambers where they're dumping people into the pits, and in the center we have a pagoda and stuff. And that's so this is the ghost city. So the idea is to survive this city. And it's kind of neat when you leave the city because as you walk through the gate to exit the city, you have to shout, ha, ha, ha. And that's to scare away the ghosts as you walk through the gates when you leave the city. And that's basically, if you don't do it, you're in big trouble. Next stop along the, so we get on back on the boat, we cruise down a little further, and we come to a pagoda. And you got off and you walked up the pagoda. Now, this is kind of an interesting pagoda. It's the Chi Bao Chai Zai Pagoda. And this pagoda sits on the bank of the Yangtze River. It's about 200 meters, on the walls beside the hills are about 700 feet tall. This pagoda was originally built as 3 stories. And people were hauled up this pagoda, lifted by ropes or whatever into the temple until the stairways were built and floors beneath the pagoda were completed. So it's basically your top-down building of a pagoda. I mean, when you look at the view from the pagoda, I mean, like if you look at the top left-hand picture, isn't that an incredible picture? The colors, even though you see a little bit of paint peeling here, I mean, that's an incredible picture. The sky and the water in the background, the rock wall, the building built right into the wall. I've always loved this picture here, the man looking out on through the hole in the wall at the ships and the Yangtze River. You see a little bit of a walkway going out here with a bridge. You see you see a temple over here. Again, another picture from the temple looking out onto the river. I mean, an incredible view. I mean, I could look at this picture for a couple hours, especially this one here in the center. Beautiful, beautiful picture. Our next stop along the way was White Emperor City. It's what, Baldi Chang. It's the entrance of the first gorge on the Yangtze River. It's a kind of a mini city that sits on top of a hill, and which has many temples and gates. It's kind of the temple, this hill, or where the temple sits, or the city sits, is surrounded on water by 3 sides, and by mountains on the other side. Magnificent steep mountains and waters, extremely beautiful view from where it is. You see just a sign along the way. We had to cross a little bridge in the top right-hand side. You see the little boat that was used, one of the old boats that may have been used on the river, or a replica of an old boat. And you see the pathway coming towards people were coming across the bridge, coming this way. These people are exiting, going towards going to get back to the ship and to leave the city afterwards. There's a group picture at the White Emperor City. You can see all about 30 members all sitting here for the picture. We're standing and sitting. The view from the bottom, beautiful gardens. A little pagoda on the right, Again, looking from a little bit on the hill, you can see a view down the Yangtze River. Now, getting up to the top of this temple was, you could either walk or buy a ride. And I think we see a few people here, a few members. What's that? That's Joanne, Pam. You see people walking up. I think this is Ken, Mickey, Helga, all walking up the thing. And here we see Cherry getting on so happy getting a ride up the hill. I mean, it's a tough walk, you know, but you can imagine two guys hauling people up this hill, walking through the crowds, and there's people on the steps as well. So they have to make their way through the crowd. So, and you're actually on a slope all the time, so you're always leaning back. And if you're coming down, you're actually worried about sliding out of the little chair. Along the way, you passed a few murals on the ground. Here's some chariot with some horses, kind of pretty. At the top, you have some, you have a sculpture of a dragon, some cranes. Beautiful view on the top right picture where you have some cranes, the steam rising from the water. Really cool to look at. Here are some calligraphies, some poems, calligraphy by Chinese Communist Party chairman. We have Mao Zedong on the right, on the left, sorry. We have Jiang Zemin in the center, and we have Zhou Enlai, Prime Minister, on the right-hand side. And these guys did this, wrote these poems here. Okay, this is at the Baldi Qing Palace at the top. It was built in during the Western Han Dynasty, underwent repairs during the Ming Dynasty. The main building of the temple was built in the 12th century, 12th year of the Jiang emperors. The Zhejiang emperor's dominancy, that was about 1513. So you can see the paint's a little rough, but I think they probably will renovate and repaint this in the next year or so. But very beautiful, very colorful. Again, at the bottom, we see some more gardens, and you can see the boats on the river. Some beautiful views, and it's really neat to walk along the sidewalks along the shore, past the gardens. Pretty views. You know, it's really hard to choose pictures to put in a presentation. There's, you know, so many people offered pictures, and like even from my wife's camera, I had like 1,800 to choose from. And today I got, someone sent me 5 pictures, beautiful pictures today, because they knew the presentation was going on, but I couldn't add them to the presentation because it was just, didn't have time to do it. So let's go back to the cruise, and let's talk a little bit about the cruise and the Three Gorges Dam. So we're cruising down the Yangtze River through the Three Gorges, and Three Gorges Dam was completed in 2006. Now, the interesting thing about building this dam was the impact on the river. They raised the river 590 feet. So the river that it was once basically a stream running through the center with villages on all the sides, now became 590 feet deeper. So as you travel along the river's changed a lot. In fact, you can see a couple of pictures here at the top. This is the river today. This is the way the river used to look. That's in the top 2 pictures. Not very good quality of those pictures there. It was taken out of a brochure. But the thing about it is, you have villages and people live along the streams. So what the government did is they moved all these people out of these villages and put them into high-rise buildings on the side of the river. So they had their little houses, and now all their little houses were buried underwater. And so a lot of people didn't take too kindly to it, but the government gave a minimal compensation, and for the good of the country, they moved from the little villages to their new high-rise buildings. I'm quite sure they're all happy to be there.
Mark, if I could break in for a moment, kind of an interesting thing here. If you look at the upper right of this map, says Chongqing, Wuhan. And then you look right on the right part of the map on the river, there's Wuhan. So that's where the virus started, Wuhan. And we made this trip just a couple of months before the virus hit.
Now, one of the reasons why the dam was put in place, the Three Gorges Dam, was this was one of the most dangerous stretches of the river. And it was frequently used for shipping from the inland industrial center of Chongqing to the hub, as the hub. So what they needed to do is they needed to be able to move goods downstream. So hence they built the dam to raise the water level and create almost like a lake-like set of waters. And now that's what these cruise ships are cruising down. And this is the view along the river. You can see at sunset, the beautiful, we got a freighter in the distance in the center picture. We got the mountains on the side. You can see the peaceful river in the top right-hand side picture. Again, another picture along the edge of the river. Along the thing, you'll see cliffs. And this is kind of funny because I'm not sure if this was out of a brochure or where it came from, but you can see cliff coffins. And what they are is, centuries ago, they used to bury people, and they used to bury them in little caves on the side of these cliffs. And they hung them in coffins. They hung these coffins up. So inside these little slits here, you'd find coffins. In fact, we saw a couple on the various trips, side trips, and the rest of stuff as we went along. And this one was taken down and sitting on some display. People are throwing money at it, just like in America. Kind of neat as you go along, you see this big pagoda sitting on top of this hillside. Here it looks like a monastery sitting up on top of the hill. We see farms along the side here, and you see they're all terraced. And it looks like they're developing some farmland here. They had to build new bridges to cross the river, so this is a brand new bridge complex that was built across the river. And this is along our boat, and you can see we're moving along, and this is as we're passing through one of the gorges going down the Yangtze. We're finally approaching towards the end of our cruise, and we're at a place called the Chenong Stream. It's part of the Yangtze River and was one of the tributaries that feed the Yangtze River. And it's just after you come out of I think the final gorge of the Three Gorges. And years ago, before the flooding took place, this used to be a little stream. Okay. Today, it's no longer a little stream. In fact, it's almost like a river flowing through here. And what we have are some people coming down. And so we're on a cruise, we're on a little boat, we're going up the river, up this little river. And you have these guys rowing this boat. And we have a lady talking here to the crowd, telling us about what we'll see along the river. We have this 80-year-old man standing at the front there in the blue jacket. And he's one of the rowers on the boat. And men and women wander down from the villages and the hills to earn money rowing these boats. And they arrive early in the morning, and some of these people walk 2 hours to get to the boats to get a job to row us down the river. And in a few seconds, I'm going to show you a couple of videos we had some boat races as well, so it was a lot of fun being on this little cruise, on this little boat ride. You can see the boats along going up the river, the oars going down. We have in fact, there's a lady here running the rudder of the boat, and we're going up along the stream. This is a couple of boats returning, and you see this bridge here going across. This little suspension bridge allows people to move from one side of the river to the other side. And this suspension bridge is used by the children to get to school in the morning. So children come out of the hills, walk a few miles maybe a couple hours down the thing, cross this bridge, and they go off to their school. An interesting trip to school, and then they walk back in the evening. I'm going to back up one slide here because I want to show you a couple of videos one video is going to be of boat racing, and the other video afterwards is a video of how they used to move boats on the river when there was just a little stream. And basically what you had is you had these boats laden with goods and the rest of stuff, and they're moving upstream. So the guys would jump out of the boats. Where they could, they'd row the boats, and when they couldn't, they'd jump on the shore and they'd run along the side of the river to pull the boats along with all their goods. And so these guys did a little bit. We took a ride on the boats, and we have a video of boat racing, and we also have a video of the boats being pulled by ropes on the side of the river.
Oh my gosh, are we racing you? Orgy. Oh my god. You guys are winning. Here now. You can, you watch it, you're going to fall.
The next one is the boat pulling by rope.
Yeah, in the pastime here, water is very shallow. And this kind of boat we can't row, so it will leave the bottom on the boat. Yeah, now you can see already the for the boat. And everyone, you can see it's just a show. Yes. Because here the water is about 6 feet. 60 meters deep. Yeah. So today it is not necessary for them to trick the boat. But the trick the boat had been lasted about 2,000 years in this area. So now it's a very valuable culture in China. Instead of fundamental to us. How did they work before the water road?
Okay, I skipped a video here. Maybe you want to look at this one. It's we were doing some singing for an 80-year-old man. I think it was his birthday or something like that. But it was pretty interesting. I'll share this one quickly, and I'll cut it off after. Maybe it's about 27 seconds long, so it'll go quickly. Yeah, so they were singing for an 80-year-old man who was on the boat, and he was one of the guys who came down to row that day or work on the boats that day. Okay, let's go on here. Some scenery along the river. There's a bunch of us, and in the top right-hand picture is my wife, myself, Helga, Nabil and his wife Judy. We got some pictures along the walls. We see a bridge. We see how peaceful the river is. Beautiful scenery. Again, boats on the river. We're on board the cruise ship, and this was the entertainment at night. They were dancing on the thing. We see some night views, people exiting the boat at Yishang, and we're going off to see the Three Rivers Dam, the Three Gorges Dam. Three Gorges Dam, October the 19th. We only got 4 days left in China before our tour ends. You can see the dam, the wiring complex in the center. There's a kind of a pavilion sitting on the top left picture. In the bottom left-hand, top right picture, that is. In the bottom right, we see the locks and how ships will move between we'll move through the locks at the Three Gorges Dam. Three Gorges Dam is one of the largest power generation systems I think in the world. It's got like 32 generators, turbines sitting in that dam, and I'm not sure that they're all running all at the same time. This is a model of how the dam is laid out. You can see it's they're blocking the water, how the water blockage takes place. And over here is another picture of the locks at the dam. Okay. And it's kind of neat here when you actually look at it, because there's two ships in here. Two ships in this one lock, and actually there's three ships here. So they actually, when the ships go in, they're all designed to go into these locks, and they actually probably put sometimes 4 or 6 ships in one of the locks at one time. And as well, there's a lift system to lift ships up to, instead of going through the locks, they can actually lift them from using water to lift the ship up from one level to the next level. I think it's basically what they're doing is using 2 lifts, one side by side. As one goes up, the other comes down. This is a large rock. It's 1 billion years old. It was in the Yangtze River. It's now displayed in the dam viewing area. Okay, we leave Yishang for Suzhou, and it's a 7-hour train ride. You see some of the OLLI members sitting in the train as we're moving down the high-speed train moving down to Suzhou. And Suzhou is the home of some of the classical gardens. You see where it's located. We're approaching Shanghai now. We've come down the Yangtze River. Okay, we've come from Beijing on the top, Xi'an, Jinju, Chongqing, down the river, and we leave the river and we go to Suzhou. Suzhou. The gardens. It's a beautiful view of the garden. A bonsai tree looking through a small window walkway. This is the lingering gardens in Suzhou. Suzhou itself is a charming network of canals, bridges, and classical gardens. And this is one of the World Heritage. It's on the World Heritage list for places to visit. The lingering garden is really beautiful. A window view, and again another picture of the OLLI group. Okay, Grand Canal. Okay, Grand Canal is really an interesting thing to see. The Grand Canal they started construction of the Grand Canal in 486 BC, and sections of the canal were built over the next 1,000 years. And the aim of the goal of this whole effort was to link the Yangtze River with the Yellow River, which flows up by Beijing. And it remains one of the largest man-made waterways with a length of 1,794 kilometers, basically 1,115 miles in length. The Grand Canal basically links North China with South China. And the reason why it was built was to provide safe transportation for goods between the north of China and the south of China. So we basically got a canal that runs from Beijing to Hangzhou, which is very close to Shanghai, and an immense amount of manpower was used to construct this 1,100-mile canal. It's the longest canal system in the world, and an idea of its length. Beijing to Hangzhou is roughly equal to the distance between New York to Florida. So this is no small canal. It's about 130 feet wide. And what's really incredible, as many as 5 million people, including women and children, were conscripted for the project to build the canal. The cost in human life was massive. 2 million workers died during the construction. all men aged 15 to 50 were liable to be conscripted to build this dam. And when it was finished, Emperor Yangji sailed his dragon fleet down the canal. Now, the dragon fleet was pulled by men on the shore. 80,000 men were used to pull the boats down the canal. And some of these boats were huge with 120 rooms on them. So we got 80,000 men pulling the emperor and his entourage down the canal. Now, what's also interesting is that the center portion of the canal, so now you got to go from basically Hangzhou to Beijing. You got to go through a mountain range, okay? So the center portion of the canal has to rise about 138 feet. So they dug out some stuff, but they still had to make that canal rise. And they had to build locks, okay? They built locks in the 10th century to facilitate the movement of boats in the canal, ships and boats in the canal. And these locks, basically, the name of the type of lock they're used is the pound lock. And that pound lock is basically, it was basically invented to support the movement of these ships. And the pound lock is exactly the same lock we use today on our canals and rivers. So actually it was invented in the 10th century. Now what they did is actually, you got the Yellow River on the north, you got the Yangtze River on the south, and you got two larger rivers in China that flow out of basically the divide that splits the country from north to south, that goes east to west, splitting north from the south. And what they did is they used the natural flow of the rivers to flood the locks and allow the movement of ships. So you use men to pull the boats where necessary. So when we saw the guys along the stream pulling us along the shore, they did the same thing with freighters and the rest of stuff with barges moving it up and down this canal. So we got basically an 1,100-mile long canal running north to south in China. So we got the Great Wall, we got this massive canal. We all got on a boat on the canal, and we took a little ride on the boat. And I'm going to show you one of the cruises on the boat. So I'm going to share here, and it's very pretty. I'm going to move this boat along a little bit. We're going to help that boat out. Okay, so after that, we went to one of the institute where they do embroidery, and it's really cool to look at because you have embroideries that are single-sided and double-sided, and you see this cat that Elizabeth's standing beside, and it's neat because the cat is actually stitched on both sides, so it's looking at you from both sides. In the right hand, there's a cat up here that Cherry is standing beside, and it's the same thing. It's a black cat. Here's the gold cat. There's a tagger, impressive tagger. This is a picture, so it's really one side. It's some swans, some loons or whatever they are, and we got a beautiful, beautiful peacock here. Oh, the cat on the front of the artwork that Elizabeth's standing beside is orange on one side and black on the other side. This one here. Oh, so I think, actually, let me go back on that one. Cherry's standing on the black side of the cat. Elizabeth's standing on the gold side of the cat, on the orange side of the cat. So this is the same piece of art. Really a neat piece of work, and it's really a dying art. It's because it's really hard to find people who will sit there and stitch all day. It's very tedious, and it's really hard on the eyesight. Okay, now we move off, and we're getting closer to Shanghai, but we're at Hangzhou. And this is the West Lake. And West Lake is very, very pretty. So we've now getting closer and closer to Shanghai. West Lake is considered one of the scenic wonders of China. It's about 3 square miles. It's man-made. Willows and lonesome blossoms add to the beauty. Marco Polo allegedly visited the Hangzhou and the city of, and described it as the city of heaven, the most magnificent in all the world. This is West Lake. John is standing here holding one of the bills, and actually on the back side of the banknote, the renminbi, you see this lake and you see this picture. On the same pictures on the note. One of the things that Hangzhou is famous for is wonderful tea plantations, and it's at the southern terminus of the Grand Canal. So they grew tea, shipped it up north to the various to the northern parts of China. And we're at the Dragon Well tea plantation. You can buy Dragon Well tea on Amazon if you want. Very good tea. Tea is an important part of this area's economy. It's a variety of green tea that's usually grown here. The city is surrounded by hills and large tea bushes. And tea is kind of interesting because the first crops of tea, they actually, I think, harvest tea 3 times during the year. The first crop, the new crop, is actually the best tea, most expensive. Then they harvest the second time, and the third time they harvest is basically they use some electric cutters, I think, to cut it. At least that's what I saw them doing in different countries. But the tea is of extremely high quality, and the first crop is the most expensive. The others, Jim Monroe and Richard in the picture, the tour guide in the picture, and Jim Monroe over here in the, not Ellie's husband, the other Jim Monroe, Lois's husband. Okay, and there's an assortment of tea pavilions as well as tea houses in the area. You'll see 2 workers here roasting tea leaves. These are roasted in these urns, and the temperature is in excess of 900 degrees. Tom Lacasse and I are roasting tea there. Boy, it's hot, really hot. We had a presentation, and they talked about tea, its antioxidants, the essence of green tea, and Chinese believe green tea can delay the aging process and improve immunity, extend our longevity. And you can see some of the OLLI members. There's Ken there, Margie, Taiji, there's Judy, Anita over on the side. My wife's sitting back here in the middle. Okay, we're coming close to the end of the tour. We leave Hangzhou taking a bus, and we're heading off to Shanghai. Shanghai means above the sea, and the sea and the city straddles both sides of the Hangpu River. It's close to the mouth of the Yangtze River, and is the nation's largest and most dynamic city. 24 million people live here. Some sights and sounds, some sights of you see in Shanghai. This is Nanking Street. It's Nanking Street. It's one of the most, one of the premier shopping areas. You see it's like the Rodeo Drive of Shanghai. It's unbelievable numbers of shops. This is the Marriott that sits along the road. The site of the first Communist Party Congress sits in this area. We have the French Quarter over here. And I mean, this place is high tech. We have the road police he's got cameras and he's patrolling the thing. If you get too close to him, he even talks to you and tells you to step back. While we're in the city, a number of the members, in fact, this group of people took a ride on the maglev train, which goes from Shanghai Pudong Station to the international airport. It's 19 miles. This train reaches a speed of 431 kilometers an hour, 170 miles per hour. And it basically runs this 19 miles to the train, to the airport, and then comes back.
270 miles.
270, sorry, 270 miles per hour. So you're really moving. Oh, sorry, wrong way. This is a picture, a group picture at the Bund in the waterfront area of central Shanghai. This is a view of the modern skyline. This is one of the tallest buildings here. It's the bottle opener building that you often see in the movies. A couple of towers, and we're all standing here looking at the globe and the rest of stuff. I'm going to show you a few videos along the river. This is a night view of the river and the skyline of, oh, sorry, this is almost the last slide. This is a night view of along the river. And I'm going to show you a few videos. Most of these videos are very short. Most of them are about 20, 30 seconds in length. And one thing to remember is members and people on the trip all gave these videos so we could put in the presentation. So we got to thank these people for sharing these videos with us. So I'm going to show 4 videos now of the skyline and some night views along the river. This is the view from the Bund.
Go give me your cameras. Come on, hurry up. Okay.
Okay, I've got a couple more videos that you can see, but in fact, I'll start showing one of them after I do. One video is about 2 minutes long. It's basically an acrobat show. That evening, we went to see an. Oh, let me new share back here. Yeah, I'm back on the thing. After seeing the river at night, some of us went to see an acrobat show, and one with guys were balancing plates on a boat, and another one was a show where motorcycles are in a cage and the guys are racing around. And I got to thank my dear friend Arif Nabil, who was on the trip, who actually supplied these videos. And I mean, it's a lot of effort to beautiful videos of the acrobat show, and I'll show these in the next few minutes. In fact, towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to end the presentation, then I'll show those videos, okay? It's kind of interesting because we start off with one motorcycle in this little cage. I mean, is this too loud, Ken?
It sounds fine to me. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for coming. A lot of people have left already, but we had 70-something participants. So thanks again, and we'll see you the next time, next Around the World.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. It's a lot of fun. Bye-bye.
All right.